Last week, we had the sad news that Joe Bugner had passed away, but I think without wanting to be disrespectful to Joe, we had even more distressing news this week, which was the loss of the great Ricky Hatton. Shocking news, Spence.
Yeah, I heard about it when I got home about 12 o'clock yesterday. Breaking news that Ricky Hatton had sadly passed away, and yeah, it was shocking news. You know, look, we knew that Ricky was suffering from mental health issues. He spoke publicly about that. He was an advocate for it. He was trying to help other people. I had him on my podcast and spoke to him about it. Yeah, he was trying to help other people that were in similar positions, and unfortunately, we lose a great man in Ricky Hatton for sure. What he achieved in the ring, and what a bubbly guy he was outside of the ring as well. It's just such a shame.
When you look back on Ricky's career, which is the sadness of this conversation, because we are now looking back on his career, I mean, how important was he to British boxing, and how important was his achievements, and how, I hate to think of this as potentially being something that younger viewers might need to be educated about, but in terms of Ricky Hatton and the presence that he had and the style and the value that he brought?
Simon, he was iconic, and he wouldn't want to be remembered like that because he was just one of the people, and that's what made Ricky so special. I mean, like Spencer, I'm heartbroken. My whole family are. We spent huge times with the Hattons over the years since he turned professional at 18. It was an incredible ride. We had phenomenal access to their lives, and he was a great, great bloke and a fantastic fighter, a wonderful amateur. Technically very astute, courageous, exciting. His body shots were brilliant, but he was vulnerable too, and he got cut and he had to come through scrapes, and he just had the love of the fans with him. That's the thing that we'll remember most, the popularity of Ricky, because he never took himself too seriously. He was serious business inside the ropes, inside training, but outside, he was just one of us, and he was great.
He was so accessible, and that was the thing with Ricky. We covered all of his career, didn't we? And, you know, used to go up there and you'd let you into the gym, and where a lot of people are very private about that and open sparring sessions, etc. Duke was, he was that guy, Duke, you know, where he was very, very accessible, very likeable. He was the people's champion for sure, and I think, you know, that's why he become as big as he did.
He was. I mean, I covered one of Ricky's fights in Vegas. Who did he fight? I can't bloody remember now. Castillo. Sorry, Castillo. Jose Luis Castillo. And he was so... I mean, obviously the fight was such an intense fight, but at the one of the press conferences, you know, Ricky Hatton was as calm as can be. I mean, just as calm and as cool as can be, and was talking to everybody and was just being really... He was just being Ricky Hatton. And even after the fight, because he ruined that kid, even after the fight, and everybody was going out celebrating as he was. I remember going to bed, I was in my pit by about 11 o'clock, and then I came down the next morning and Ricky Hatton was still at the bar. He'd been drinking all night, do you know what I mean? That was his life. He loved a pint, right? He loved to drink, and that was the story of his life, sadly. And unfortunately, the two don't necessarily go together. You can't be a highly successful athlete and be drinking.
And live life in a certain way. I remember seeing him. I'll ask you all a second about your first time you met him. I met him first time I went to the first fight I saw him fight was against Bentaki. I went to watch him at the Manchester Arena, which is where I think he got the most credible name on his record after that, was the Costa Zoo fight, 2 fights down the road, and I went to that fight too. And obviously the atmosphere was phenomenal. I sat next to the late Dean Powell and was listening to him comment on what Ricky was doing. And then I bumped into Ricky in Spain during the summer, sitting in a pub, drinking and talking about his achievements. I was with Ian Dow at the time. Roll forward the years, I've seen Ricky do many things. I saw him do a stand-up in Marbella, where he was doing...
Good raconteur.
He was very good raconteur. And then I had him on up front, and I always felt, without wanting to be pointed, that there was a sadness about Ricky, that there was something that wasn't making him 100% content. There were various challenges in his life. Relationships with his father deteriorated. Relationships with Billy Graham deteriorated. But he was a character. When I spoke to him up front, we went into great detail about the podcast that I used to do with William Hill, about his life, his career, his achievements, his relationships, all the challenges that he had. And I always felt that it was something that Ricky was holding back, something that was going on beneath the surface that you didn't get. You know, you didn't get into Ricky Hatton, you didn't get to know him. And I think you did probably more, didn't you, Adam?
I did. I was very, very close to him. The first time I met him was when Billy Graham, the old champs camp, said, I've got this kid I want you to have a look at, and this spiky blonde-haired, quite chunky lad. He was about 16, 17 maybe, and he was hammering away on a punch bag, and Billy said, this is the future. This is the guy who's going to become a world champion. And He was Richard Hatton at the time, and we just had a connection right from the beginning. And in those early days of Sky Sports and the boxing, it was a chance to really build somebody. But it was so easy to build Ricky Hatton. And I spent a lot of time with him. I remember a car journey after maybe 3 or 4 fights in, where he said to me, "I never want to change. I never want to be anyone. If I ever get too big for my boots, I'll hand the belts back. I'll hand what I win back. I just want to be one of the people." He had mates on the Hattersley estate that he had all the way through, and of course the celebrities came in later, the Gallaghers, the Rooneys, the footballers. But he was always one of us, one of the people, and a working class hero. But I think, he did struggle, and he struggled particularly post-career. I thought he took the Pacquiao defeat very, very badly. And, and that was hard to watch, but he was very open about it. And, I spoke to him just a few weeks ago, and he seemed in a much better place. And that's the tragedy. It's really come left field. And,
I think that's the problem, Adam, that is when you are a kid like where Ricky come from, and the kid that he was, personality was very charismatic, and you become a public figure. There's a lot of pressure that comes with that.
Sure.
And he wasn't just a guy that become, a boxing world champion. He become one of the biggest public figures that we've had.
How did he create this remarkable support base? I mean, obviously, you come from a local area, you relate to it, you're a man of the people, you still associate with the people that you grew up with. But what triggered? I mean, I remember watching the Floyd Mayweather press conferences, and of course Floyd winding everybody up by wearing Man United shirts and whatever else he thought he could do to get at people. But the scale, I went to America, watched Lennox Lewis and see the fans following him, and then you see Ricky's following, and the scale of that presser or that weigh-in in terms of the fight against Floyd Mayweather was like, I don't think the Americans knew what they were having a haircut in terms of the scale of...
Because he was the boy next door, he was the guy that used to, we would see him boxing at the MEN Arena against Kostya Tszyu in that 2005 when he, that memorable fight, probably one of the best atmospheres I've ever been at. Ever. And you go, the Sunday after, he's down his local working man's club, drinking with the boys and doing that. And people related to that. They loved that because, that was the guy that he was. And that's how he got the fan base that he got.
Most of the people in the MEN had a pint with Ricky, or certainly felt that they had, and that you're in Vegas with him, and they just travelled. They wanted to be part of it.
The public loved Ricky Hatton for whatever the reason. Like I say, more so than probably most of our other world champions, because he was that guy you could go and have a pint with. It was ridiculous that when he boxed Mayweather at the weigh-in, and the crowd absolutely drowned out Mayweather. You couldn't even hear yourself talk at the time. But even Mayweather joined in singing, there's only one Ricky Hatton, and it was all just going crazy. It's ridiculous. And it
lifted him as well, didn't it?
At the MEN when he boxed Kostya Tszyu. You couldn't even hear yourself speak, Simon. It was ridiculous.
It was an incredible occasion and one of the greatest nights and wins ever by a British fighter.
In a British ring, What was, this Mayweather tour that you would have been on and observing, what was that experience like? Duke talks about the culmination of it in terms of the noise and the experience of Mayweather, and of course I mentioned Mayweather wearing a Man United shirt trying to get underneath the skin, but you were on that journey with him. What was that experience like?
Was the contradiction, I think, between the two, the one you loved and the one you loved to hate. And Floyd was all flash and he was so skillful and brilliant, and we'd followed him as well, of course, at the same time, and he was favourite to win the fight, and he had the skills that paid the bills. But there was Ricky, who just wanted to take away the nonsense that he felt Mayweather, that sort of showmanship, the brash, arrogant side. And Ricky was totally the opposite. He was humble. He didn't like it. And the 24/7 HBO showing everything we did on Sky, it was an enormous build-up to that. Ricky was unbeaten in 43. Mayweather was undefeated. He'd won world titles at different weights, and it was the culmination. And I think in my heart of hearts, I always thought Mayweather would find a way to win the fight. But your heart was with Ricky, and it shouldn't have been as a broadcaster, but Ricky was the sort of person that was infectious to be around, and you were gutted when he lost. Gutted.
As I mentioned earlier on, I talked to Ricky about the difference between him and Mayweather, and here's him talking just over a year ago on my Upfront podcast.
I'm from the council estate, and he's from the same equivalent in the States,
the projects.
Projects. So I feel bad sometimes when I go to Hattersley, which was where I was, the council estate where I was, but I feel bad driving my car around there. But I can't see anybody sat in any of the bars in the projects, when Floyd's going, look at me 250 on my pinky and look at the 300 on my wrist. I can't see anyone.
Love him.
I can't see anyone in the project sat there. You can't put the electric on, can't put the heater on. No, pot to and say, I tell you what, and he done us proud him. No, what they're going to think. Come down
pull out
here.
an Uzi and take it off him.
Yeah, if he comes down here, I'm going to stick a knife in that.
Yeah.
That's what they're going to do, aren't they? You know what I mean?
He was a saucy
I
fucker.
like to go down my artist day, and every kid or every parent or everyone say to me, "Oh, Ricky, hey, brilliant, how you doing? Can you have a picture like that?" What's he going to do if he goes down to his...
he runs with a different crowd now, doesn't he?
And that's the different, you know. You want people, I say, listen, work hard. I come from where you come. If you try and work hard and you dedicate yourself and say, what, if I can do it, you can do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no,
what does he do? What does he do? Hey, kid, you want a picture? Come and have a picture. Look at me watch. You know, off.
That probably sums him up better than anything else, doesn't it, in his own words?
Like what I was saying, you know, just a minute ago, that you go, he was the guy that liked to have a drink with the guys down the working man's club. Like you say, like he would like to go back to the estate where he was brought up from, and he could relate to them, and they could relate to him, because there was nothing flash, nothing brash about Ricky Hatton. He remembered where he come from, and I think that's important for boxers. You go, when they keep their feet on the ground and remember their roots, you know, that's why they become so infectious.
That's what he did, remembered his roots. That
Absolutely.
conversation I had at the beginning of his career, he was the same at the end and beyond. He had a wonderful relationship with a young boy called James Bowers, who had brain damage, and he was like almost like a mascot for Ricky, and Ricky gave him so much time. And it wasn't just that, it was anyone, the guys on the estate, or it was the celebrities that would come in. He was obviously a huge Manchester City fan. And
James used to carry the belts in, and he was at every fight.
And he was, it was that ability to make
relate.
everybody feel great around him, whatever they were, whoever they came from. And
Paul Smith said that. Paul Smith said that this morning on the show. He talked about the fact he was a young boxer, that Ricky walked into the gym, and he was the most highly rated fighter probably in the country at the time, on the cusp of winning a world title. Paul Smith was starting out, and the way that he spoke to Paul and brought him into his confidence and asked him if he could do anything for him, if there's any help you ever need, and that illustrates the point. I just want to finish on probably what most people will think is the highlight of his boxing career, which was the win against Costa Zoo. I mean, it opened up mega fights against Floyd Mayweather and Manny Pacquiao, which probably economically were more financially rewarding, but in terms of achievements, the scale, the performance, you commented on that fight, or commentated on that fight. Can you just run us through your recollection of it?
It was huge, Simon, because Hatton didn't start that fight as favourite. And Costa Zoo had this formidable reputation, you know, and he was a big puncher, knocked out really classy fighters like Zab Judah, who was another amazing champion. And like I say, Hatton wasn't supposed to win that fight, but, you know, Ricky Hatton did what Ricky Hatton does. And, he, you know, once he gets in and he sits in your chest and starts punching away, you can't stop him. He was like a man possessed. And in the end, he broke Costa Zoo's heart with his relentless attitude and his work ethic. He's never stopped throwing shots. But like I say, there were times in that fight I couldn't even hear myself speak. The noise, the raucous noise of that crowd was phenomenal. And it would be something I'll never, ever forget.
I don't think anyone will forget it, Simon. And I think it was a perfect matchmaking by Frank Warren. He fought Ray Oliveira before down in London, which was a tough test. You mentioned Ben Taki. But he fought Sue at exactly the right time, a pound-for-pound star, just slightly on the wane. But Ricky's performance, I think he would have beaten anyone that night. That night was his one. That was the one that we'll always remember. We'll all remember being there where we were, but that moment when Billy and Ricky rolled around on the canvas and it all came out, the emotion, when the great Kostya had been pulled out on his stool after 11 rounds.
Vanquished.
I think that just lives on forever.
It was a calculated gamble by Frank, who's brilliant at doing that, but none of us, we were all working that night, none of us thought that Ricky could do it. I picked Frank Bruno up on the way up there, actually, and we're talking about it, saying, listen, great young prospect, this Ricky Hatton. Frank's done a brilliant job of him, but this is a pound-for-pound #1 fighter in the world. In Kostya Zoo, you go, too much too soon, but he showed a little bit of everything in his character. He was hurt badly at the beginning of that fight as well, and he went through it. He was never going to be denied that night. And I'll tell you what, guys, I think the fight, that was really the moulding of him, but a fight that really made him as well and developed him massively, and it never gets talked about, was the John Faxton fight.
Just about to say that.
John Faxton fight when he got cut from
very early.
Only that referee would have allowed that to go on, and had he lost that fight, Ricky Hatton, he would never have gone on to achieve what he would have achieved. You know, I think that one there, that developed him and made him
the
into
old
a
Wembley
proper
Conference
fighter.
Centre, wasn't it?
Oh, it was a horrendous cut.
Lonsdale belt, and Mick Williamson, he used to call him God in the corner because he used to stitch Ricky up. And I think that the frailties and the fragility, occasionally Eamon McGee he had him down early. They were the things that really added to the appeal of Ricky Hatton.
45 stitches, I think, yeah.
45 stitches and 45 wins in his career out of 48. What a legend.
Well, I think it's fair to say, and I can say it on behalf of all of us, that boxing and British sport has lost a true British hero and a British icon, and may he rest in peace.